Hey everyone, welcome to Geek Rant. It's Greg here again on the channel with Toby, and today we're going to be talking about episodes 10 and 11 of Andor. Hey everyone, welcome to Geek Rant. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to be talking about episodes 10 and 11 of Andor, which I have to say is my predictions were right on this one. This has turned out to be an excellent series. I thought this was going to be the one that people overlooked, and suddenly it's getting good. It's getting really
We had
good.
high hopes, didn't we, at the beginning of the season?
We
We had high
did.
hopes, and it had
We
a little bit
did.
of a dip in the middle.
We
After
oh well, I
three
was
or four,
yeah.
I
There
think
was a
that a lot of
couple.
people have said that. I think a lot of people have said, the first three episodes are a little bit sort of dark, and you don't quite know what's going on. But
Yeah,
then they start to introduce the more established, more experienced actors into the
yeah,
fray,
yeah.
and it sort of picked up, didn't it? And with the addition of Andy Serkis for these last few episodes, it's just
I
been
know.
on. He's been
been
great.
been
Yeah,
excellent, hasn't it? Yeah,
yeah,
and I think we said that before, didn't we? Cassian, is he the strongest actor to lead this? When he's had someone with him, when he's had someone that can help bring his performance up, it's really
yeah.
helped, hasn't it?
It has, and I,
Um,
I think the decision to have Andor as the lead in the show is becoming a
yeah,
bit more apparent.
yes, yeah,
His kind of. I don't know whether it's on purpose. I don't know how much credit to give him, but as
yeah,
we've gone through the show, his kind of clueless, dumb look that he has is really a device, a plot,
yeah,
a tool they're using. Can they convert someone who doesn't give a shit about
yes,
anything to the
yes,
cause? And
yeah,
it's
yeah,
becoming more of a theme, and more people are talking about it on videos and online. You know,
yeah,
is this kind of dumb play the perfect base to try and, can we turn this person who doesn't care about anything,
yes,
towards the Rebel Alliance?
yeah.
And
I
that's
can
becoming more
remember.
apparent.
Yeah, I can remember you saying in a few episodes back,
Mm.
you thought there needs to be some sort of catalyst, doesn't there, to turn him into a rebel? Because at the
Yeah,
moment he doesn't seem like he cares.
yeah.
He's just self-interest, isn't he, and trying to, you know, and like you said, it was you thought about the mother, didn't you? That could be one. So that's something that might come out a little
Yeah, yeah,
to
yeah. Well,
fruition. So we're doing pretty well on our predictions here, I think.
I think
We're
so. I think we've got our head around this.
That's good. So anyway, taking the first one, episode 10 is called No Way Out. And this one was heavily set, wasn't it, in the prison scenario,
Yeah,
where they'd at the end of episode 9,
One Way
they
Out. I think it's called One Way
yeah,
Out. Yeah,
oh sorry, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
one way, no way out. I said no way
Yeah,
out,
because
didn't
that
I? That was
keeps
something
that keeps
else.
ringing around my head. If you think about the episode, it
One way out.
feels like
Sorry,
there's no way
apologies.
out, but there is one
Yeah,
way
yeah.
out.
Yeah, I'm thinking of something else. Is it a Spider-Man
Yeah,
film? No Way
yeah,
Home. No
something
Way
like that. No
Home.
Way
That's
Home.
right. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. The old
Um,
Marvel just leaks in there, Greg,
yeah,
doesn't it?
slipped in. Damn it.
It's that Marvel bit in your brain that's permanently there. Everything's compared to Marvel.
Oh no, 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 no. Yeah. So obviously, in episode 9, they discovered, hadn't they, that there were they were going to be held there indefinitely.
Yeah,
They were
yeah,
just going to get moved about from different area to different area, and that
yeah,
you know they'd killed a whole section of men on level 2, and now we
yeah. It was
know
good
Andy
Jeopardy, wasn't
Serkis.
it?
It
Yeah,
was
it's good
good. It was
Jeopardy.
good.
Yeah,
Yes, good build
we were
up.
like suddenly tense. What the hell are they going to do now?
Yeah,
Bang.
yeah. So I
We've
mean,
got
at
to
the
do
beginning of
something.
this episode, they're basically going to get a plan together, aren't they? That he's talking to Andy Serkis character and sort of saying, we've got to get out of here. We've got to do something. There's a good little interjection between the two of them at the beginning of the episode where they sort of like he's trying to say, look, we've got no time. We've got to try and get out of here now.
Mm.
The sooner the better. And I'd rather die than stay here, sort of thing, and so it really follows through, doesn't it? That they they go back to the barracks, or the cells or whatever, and explain what's
Yeah.
happened, and that they're not getting out.
It's like a
And
scene out of an IKEA aisle, isn't it? You go to IKEA.
yes, it is
It's
very
got that
IKEA.
white curved finish.
Yeah, they had them in as interior designers, didn't they, for the prison?
Yeah. And the curved rooms didn't look very practical, did they? If you were on top, you definitely
no.
drew the short straw if you were on the top.
Yeah. But it fits nicely. I think it fits nicely. There's lots of
they're
lovely
like
little
bees in a cell, aren't they?
display,
Yeah.
sort of like the switches and the little displays with the numbering and
very
all those
cute.
sorts of, and very Star Warsy. There's some really good sounds in the background of that sort of humming Star Warsy sound that you get in the original films that I love.
Well, I mean, if you do anything in gloss white, it immediately takes on a Star Wars feel, doesn't it? It's kind of like that's one of their motifs. The white and the black. And the strong red buttons, for example. There's no greys very often in Star, unless you go down to a planet where it's like it's neither.
No. So it's they're all discussing, aren't they, how they're gonna try and escape. And I mean, in the previous episode, Cassian had sort of seen they're a little bit more vulnerable when they're delivering someone into the prison, into their prison. So they make a plan, don't they, to attack when that sort of happens. And I mean, Cassian has identified a little place where he can try and break a water line or some sort of, So you see, as they are waiting for someone to be delivered into the prison, he's nipped off, hasn't he? He's sawing away at the old pipes.
We don't quite know why he's doing this in the first instance, but it becomes evident. That he's got a plan about water leaking from the pipes, the short circuit, or to sort of create like an overall sudden electrical shock of anybody standing on the surface, which kind of, it was a bit weird. I don't quite know. Yeah, but it was.
I think he was thinking that if he floods the place and they turn it on, that it will blow it out and therefore break the system.
Short circuit thing.
Yeah.
It's a classic ploy, isn't it? Yeah, classic ploy.
But it's good. So he's sawing away. He's got all the water spewing out, hasn't he? And and then the others, as the prisoners are coming down, they then attack, don't they? And there's a really good sequence here. It's quite realistic, isn't it? It's good how you see quite a few of the prisoners getting killed, and they're trying to climb up onto this lift that's coming down, and it's really well done. And then he's like, "Oh, we're going to shock everybody," and that's when you see the water's coming out. And, old Andy Serkis is, "Get on the tables," and they like all jump onto the tables where they can, and they blow the system, and that's when he's like, "Attack!" I was really into this bit, obviously. And they all then managed to get themselves out, start to take weapons and basically take over the whole prison, don't they?
That's very good.
I thought it was a really good moment in the series. It's
I mean, at times you could argue it's lacked a bit of action, but this really made up for it, didn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that's the difference between the series, isn't it, and a movie. They can have a lot more action. They spend a lot more on special effects and so on. So when they do some action, it's a nice bit of a change, isn't it?
It was kind of reminiscent of some of the earlier Star Wars films and the style they did it in. Some good blaster sounds, classic blasters, very cool. And they didn't need to add much to it. It was just them against them, and it was good.
Yes, absolutely. And they managed to make their way back up, and they're freeing some of the other floors. You see some of that. You see some of the water coming through the ceilings, don't you? And dropping onto the other prisoners, and then what's going on, and they're freeing more and more of the prisoners. And then they make their way up, don't they? Cassian takes I can't remember what the Andy Serkis character's name is, but takes him up to the control center, and they take over the whole prison, shut down all these
Kino, something like that. Andy Serkis.
Yeah.
Anyway, Loy.
Yeah. I saw an interview with him, and I think someone was he was trying to say, because obviously he played Snook in the films. He did the voicing and the sort of motion capture for the great evil characters. And this isn't a character that turns into Snook. It's not anything to do with that.
Yeah. You can imagine all sorts of strange theories flying around the place, couldn't you?
Bless him. So
no, but we get to see him. He's got such an expressive face as well, which is he's such a great actor.
He is a really good actor, and I think that really elevated this episode, didn't it?
It really did. Yeah,
he really the bit where he's then having to talk to the guards or other prisoners all over the sort of Tannoy system, and he's giving them a bit of an emotion, and that's, I think that was good, because Andor was like, you do it, you're the one, you always talk to these people, you know how to motivate them, I think that was quite good, that he doesn't want to be necessarily the leader. He's quite happy to let others do things, but he's quite clever in that respect. It was good to get him to talk to the.
He's a survivor, isn't he? He's a survivor. He's kind of come up with the plans and how, see how he can trick his way out of a situation.
Yes.
He's just got to have someone on board who can action the plan.
He uses the people around him, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And I mean, we sort of said that before, didn't we? In the first few episodes, we were like, why is anyone friends with this guy? Because he's just like using everybody for, borrowing money or doing this and that,
It's true.
So it was kind of, he's kind of good at, sort of seeing people's skills, getting them doing certain things,
And it's handy when he's he's around, people can see that he could get them out of a situation, so and then we have Melshi as well, who's there, and he has a direct tie into Rogue One, which I felt added a strength to that, because he appears in Rogue One,
right?
And although he we kind of separate from him pretty soon. Right. He's going to come back in, and he's being released in a sense to go on and be in Rebel One, so he's in there. So there's a nice little sort of heritage line for the hardcore fans.
It's good. It's not so hard in your face as well, though, is it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's good that he's
seems natural.
Just sort of snuck in there. Yeah, absolutely. And they basically tell everyone there's only one way to get out of here, so let's come on, one, and they're all chanting one way out as they're running down the corridors, beating up the guards, and you see them come to this end of this passage, don't you? There's a big drop into the ocean, and they're all jumping out, and poor old Andy Serkis looks round at old Andor, I can't swim, and it was like, and
that's the last we see of him.
It's the last we see of him. So
because there's a whole mass crowd, and Andy Serkis is kind of backing away because it's a big old drop. It's about 100 meters down to the water, and because you span out and you see this sort of imperial shape of a prison, and they're all jumping off, and they then swim we then see him running along on some landscape, don't we? That's kind of rough and rocky, and they're all swimming off.
Yes, yeah.
And again, there's a lot of themes here. There's like the fish and the water, and there's quite a few sort of trapped. They're like fish in a net, aren't they?
Yes.
And there's a few references to this as
that's
we go
right.
along.
Yes, you hear Dedra talk a bit like that, don't you?
Yeah.
Are you a fish in my net sort of thing? And that sort of analogy. Yeah.
There's some nice sort of strong subliminal messaging going on throughout it, which ties it together visually, and very nice.
This has been, as a series, it's been so much better directed, hasn't it? And the way it's been shot, is it's not like any other series that we've seen from the Star Wars stuff at the moment. The Mandalorian is good, but it's still different, isn't it? And
well, Toby Haynes did this one. He did the last three. And there's a real gritty, depressive underlying feeling to these three episodes, that you really kind of feel the struggle has to push against that, which is very good. And we find out a bit more, don't we, in this episode about Luthen is what his role is, and the sacrifices that he makes.
Yes.
I
mean, that was another really good section, wasn't it? So we see a ISB, one of the ISB officers who we've seen throughout the whole series, not realizing that he's actually undercover, as a
he's the
he,
mole. Yeah,
he's the mole, exactly. Lonnie Jung, this guy is called, and he's gone to meet, hasn't he, Luthen?
Yeah.
And you see him going in a lift and sort of
Well, he's desperate
communicating.
because he wants out, doesn't he? Because it's getting
out.
too dangerous, and he's heard this news, isn't he?
Well, not just that, he's also had a child, isn't he? And so he's suddenly realized I want to be there for my child and not be under this constant threat. So yes, he wants out, doesn't he? But I thought it was really well. I'm really enjoying, after seeing these 2 episodes, I'm really enjoying the Luthen character and how.
Oh yeah, because we were worried, weren't we, that he might
is.
sort of disappear.
Yeah,
because he'd fulfilled his role.
It felt like that, didn't it?
And the 2 girls were kind of taking over a bit with the communication there. But then he comes back into this one, and he meets his mole, his informer. And there's a classic scene. He's going, the informer's going down in the lift, and the doors open, and framed on this bridge, looking out into this underworld of greens and darkness, is Luthen standing on this bridge. And he just, at first he doesn't say much, but then he launches into this amazing speech about the sacrifices that he's made himself, and that he has nothing, and that everything that he has done that he does is for the rebel cause. And he just delivers it, doesn't he?
And love and it's really powerful, isn't it?
It's very powerful, and it had Toby Haynes' mark all over it, the director. It just was so powerful. And I can imagine Stellan Skarsgård reading this script and thinking, right, I'm definitely one on board, because he's a top quality actor.
He is,
and to get him on this has just really elevated the whole show.
Oh my God. I mean, that bit, I was like, Jesus, that's amazing. It really draws you in, doesn't it? It really got you into the whole atmosphere of it. It was fantastic. I was like, this is, and it made me think, this guy's really cool. He's so persuasive, and he's bending this guy around to what he wants. He's trapped, and he says, "You're trapped there, mate. There's no other way of saying it." This is you gotta do your bit. You're the hero.
It wasn't just a speech; it had a function.
Yes,
as you're saying, it completely turned the guy around in the sense. There's no way out, as you were saying earlier. He's totally committed, and I just thought that was brilliant. It was so good, and the framing was so cinematic and beautiful. I just thought
the whole thing was excellent, wasn't it?
And you can see why it's got 9.5 out of 10 on Internet Database, and that's like a week after. Usually there's an uplift and it drops, but that just says it all, really.
It does. It was really good episode. And I mean, the other bit that we've not mentioned is that Mon Mothma, she obviously is trying to find some money, isn't she, to help sort this issue that she had taken too much money out of her accounts that looked shady. And so she's met with a guy called Darrow Skolden,
something like that.
And he's a bit of a hood character, isn't he? She's worried about him. But I mean, the guy they picked for that character was brilliant. I thought he was evil, really sort of, the way he played it. And
very subtle.
And Mon Mothma as well, her delivery with it, and the way she just was very, to the point, and, that was a really good scene, the real tension.
Money, you really felt sorry for her, but he obviously wants his son and her daughter to marry, and in the traditional ways of their people. Really cool.
So it was brilliant episode, absolutely brilliant. I was watching this like, we're not reviewing it till next week, damn it. That was really enjoyable.
Very much so. Very much a high point so far, although the next episode is brilliant as well.
Okay, so episode 11 was called Daughter of Ferrix. And that's obviously a reference to Martha, isn't it? Martha, who we see sort of near the beginning of this is actually died, hasn't she? We don't see the actual actress.
Yeah.
It's a shame, but I think ultimately this is leading us to a point that we were sort of talking about before, that, and Cassian needs something as a motivation to
Yes.
really truly commit to the rebels, like he is in Rogue One.
Yeah.
And
well, there's only one thing left in his life that he really cares about now, isn't there?
yes,
You know,
exactly.
and his mother,
Yes,
who actually wasn't his mother, his adopted mother, isn't it? It's
that's right. Yeah,
so she, from the earlier, as much as they're close, I always felt like she put some distance between her and him, because she, because of his sister. I felt like, he felt more loyal maybe to finding his sister than maybe to his mother at times.
Right.
So I thought that was an interesting dynamic.
Yes. Yeah. They had a slightly fractious relationship at times, didn't
Yeah.
they? They he wanted her to come with him, but she wanted to stay, and so yes, I think that's and it was they tried to inject a bit of the cuteness of the robot into this one, didn't they, as well, which was quite sort of funny. The robot had become so reliant on her, really.
I didn't mind that, to be honest. I thought it was quite good. I've heard some people criticizing that approach as a divisive thing, to try and. But I quite like that we have a history of droids, don't we?
Yeah.
In Star Wars, and I thought it was interesting. I quite like that little character.
Reminds me of the actual droid itself. I like
the black hole. It reminds me a bit of the black hole.
Black hole. I like the way he sort of he moves up and down as well. He sort of I quite like that style, and the fact that he's actually a more practical looking droid, isn't he? Because he's got wheels and rather than one that's on that's a ball or it walks.
I like his little dock where he slots in, and his little door flaps down. As he
charges
comes out.
Himself.
It's quite good.
He actually charges himself. You don't really see the droids in much of Star Wars charge themselves. They must have amazing batteries or something.
It's true. I guess that's one thing you see a bit more of that sort of thing with the TV series, don't you? You see that kind of the background, which is nice. It's nice to see. It's a functioning world, isn't it? That place.
It is. It makes it more real, doesn't it? Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Bix as well is still there. She's still a captive, isn't she?
Yeah, she's holding on. She looked terrible.
She looks totally broken, doesn't she? Bless her. But she does. I was guessing that she wasn't really given them much information. There's a bit where they try and question her, and she just sort of cries, doesn't she? So I think is she holding out, or is
I think that she did she meet him? Did she meet him in person? I think she did, didn't she?
Yes, she did. Yes.
She did. Yeah. So
the first time he comes to the planet.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So she is holding out.
Yeah, which is interesting. So I wonder if there's he'll rescue her in maybe in the last episode, because we don't know, do we? We don't know.
It's all coming back down to there. Is it Cyril is going to be on his way to the planet?
That's right. Yeah.
So we're going to have.
He gets a call, doesn't he, from the sergeant who he had been working with.
Yeah, he was a great character. I mean, and he's now working at a welding factory, and he gives a kind of garbled message to Cyril, who pushes his mum away. There's a clear sort of indicator, right? This period of my life is over. You've given me this. I'm now going back to what was before.
Did he? There was a bit where did he wait for her to leave, and then he snuck in and stole some money or something from her? Right. Was that what that was?
Yeah,
I was just trying to work out. Is he stealing from his mother there?
It was like her jewelry, wasn't it?
He took a couple of slips or something, didn't he? Yeah.
Gold pressed latinum, probably.
Gold pressed latinum, yeah. Oh, that's a Star Trek. At last, there's a Star Trek overlap. Brilliant. Wow. But obviously this idea of there being a funeral is a big opportunity as well now for Dedra, And she comes back into it now, and she's organizing them, and so because they're saying, "Oh, we're going to not let them do too much." But she said, "No, we want a funeral. We want to be able to capture him. So make sure there's a funeral."
And there's a good bit. Yeah, exactly. And there's a good bit where you see they're talking, and what was really cool, it's just a little detail, but the angles at which the screens are looked at. I saw that was pointed out on another video, and I thought that just shows that they're thinking a lot about how it works, and that it looks right, that it looks real. You can believe in this,
Yes, it is very believable, isn't it? There is some real sort of, like you say, gritty. It's quite gritty, and it's trying to keep some of the good old Star Wars traditions alive, isn't it? With those sorts of things. I noticed when there's a bit where you see Bix, and you see those row of sort of little monitor screens, or and they were. Do you remember in the original Star Wars when they're when they're in the jail bit and they blasting all those things out? It was like, they just take one of those and put that, and I was like, this is good. This is good. This is the
good production we want. Good production design, brilliant.
So that's really good. So we're waiting for the track to be sprung, really, aren't we, on Cassian? There's also, you still see that Cinta is now working at a little coffee shop. I was going to say coffee shop.
Well, she's ready to pounce,
opposite. It was quite directly opposite Marva's house, which was quite handy. But then she seems to have the same customer every day, who's an undercover ISB.
He keeps sending out. He keeps giving orders, doesn't he? Just, make sure you're watching that. All that sort of thing. And it's all quite close. It's already sort of explode. Which would be interesting.
That's good. And
I want to know how Cyril and Dedra's relationship is going to work out. I quite like that. That's really interesting.
Well, this is it. That could be quite good. Quite good. But then we obviously see back. This is into spun with other bits. We see Andor and Melshi. They've got away. They're climbing up some sort of. It's like a quarry or something, isn't it? They're climbing around a quarry, and they're trying to hide. It's a
cliff face, isn't it? Is it cliff face from something like that? Anyway,
And they evade, the Imperial ships, don't they? But then they see down in this, I think it's like a quarry or something, and they see down in this quarry that there's these two odd-looking characters, aren't there?
I love this bit, but I can imagine people hating it because
it was really funny, wasn't it?
It was like a scene out of the Dark Crystal, wasn't it? It really was.
It did
oversized arms.
I didn't mind one of the characters, the one that did the most of the talking. So they see these two aliens, don't they? Basically, one of the characters, like you say, with the oversized arms, I thought, he sounds just like the character that was in Force Awakens. There's a bit where she's trying to set. She gets old Rey when she's getting her bits of whatever. She sells them to
behind this little counter.
And that's Simon Pegg in there who plays that character. Simon Pegg plays that character.
Okay.
And the voice was very similar to the voice of this character. I just thought, I wonder if you'd noticed that, but I thought, that's really, really similar sort of voice.
It's kind of like a broken English, isn't it? I think,
and the tone of it was very reminiscent. But the other character,
couldn't understand at all.
Well, I know you can understand, but I thought, my goodness, they didn't quite get the costuming, the sort of thing right.
He looked like a puppet, didn't he? Yeah,
he did. He looked really bad. I thought it looked a bit like James Corden, sort of on a bad night.
It was, and the mouth, the talking, just like it just looked like someone was pulling a lever. But I quite enjoyed that bit.
That was quite fun. It was quite a funny bit, especially when they were trying to run to they saw this sort of pod hopper, is that what they call them?
Yeah,
They run across, don't they, to try and get to it, and they just fire this sort of net thing and capture them, and
rubber sticky gooey
rubber
net
sticky
thing.
stuff. Yeah, it was quite a funny novel thing, wasn't it?
Yeah. And that hopper there is out of Force Awakens as well, because that's on the planet.
That's
right. And we get to see quite a few
ships
ships in this, don't we?
Yeah,
which is quite good,
Oh yeah. And he then says, "Oh, can you take me to?" Now there was a planet that I can't think what it was called now. But there was the planet where he'd stored his money, hadn't he? He was with that when Andor was with that woman.
It was a pleasure world, wasn't it?
A pleasure world, yeah. So they'd gone back there. He got his money back, didn't he? And then him and Melshi were planning what to do. But he rings home, doesn't he, and finds out that his mother has died. And he's contemplating what to do, isn't he, at the end of the episode there?
Well, then Melshi says to him,
yeah.
Melshi says,
yeah.
So what are we going to? We need to tell people what's happening.
That's right. They need to know what's going on. Yeah.
And he's just had the news, and he's like, "Oh, maybe you're right. Maybe we need to do this."
Yes.
Gives him the blaster. He arms him.
Yes.
It's sort of a significant moment. He hands him the blaster, and he says, "Right, you are now fighting for the Republic. You are now,
rebels." Yeah. Oh,
yeah. And that's like a little poignant moment where he hands him that blaster, because it's like, now I'm giving you permission to be a rebel, because Melshi's sort of looking to, because he led it. He led the escape.
He did really. He did.
So that's a nice little moment, and we had to have that. We were talking about earlier about his mother dying. And he had to have the reason, didn't he, to do it? And he's then presented
all kind of coming together
with it. Yeah.
It's very good. It's really good. It's really good, and showing his character, how he's going to develop. So that's really, really nice.
I mean, he still looked like a rabbit caught in the headlights when he was saying it to Melchi. He doesn't sell me on his facial features.
No,
but
you're never happy about his facial features.
No. More his expressions. He looks fine. It's just, he always looks like a rebel.
Yes, he does. He's
kind of got that dishevelled look about him.
I know. The other thing that I thought was quite nice was to see a bit more of Vel. She's keen to speak to Luthen, so she goes to the shop and she speaks to Kyra. I've just forgotten it already.
Clear. I know some of the names are a little bit forgetful.
It's like Leia.
Not very memorable.
She looks a bit like Leia, and I'm thinking Leia.
It's clear. Right. It's clearly designed to be that way.
Yes.
Clear.
Yes, that's
Leia.
To reminisce about Star Wars, isn't it? And they have there's a little bit of friction there, isn't there? And I think for me, this is a nice wider sort of aspect of this series that the rebels aren't a rebel alliance yet. They're all fractious little groups.
It's risky business. It's
risky business. And this works really well because it keeps everybody, they're not pulling together quite yet, Yes, she did that operation for Luthen, but it feels like she's a little bit on the outskirts of things, Val, isn't it? And she wants to talk to him and tell him that Andor's mother has died, because there's an opportunity there. So she passes this on to I can't even Princess Leia, and then she also goes and sees Mon Mothma, doesn't she? And again, I thought this was another really good performance by Mothma here. She confides in her, doesn't she, and tells her how worried she is and what's going on, and that she's going to get found out. And I mean, this was a really good little bit there. I thought. I don't know what you thought about the performance. I thought it was really convincing, and she played it very well.
Well, I think Vel and is stirring things up. Mothma's resisting. Clear's resisting. There's a kind of, and I think actually the actress who plays Vel, Faye Marsay, I think she's got a huge future. I think she reminds a bit of Florence Pugh. Like very sort of serious young woman playing some powerful roles, and very believable. I felt totally persuaded by her passion, and then the fears that Mon Mothma presented as a result, because you feel she's balanced very carefully, and it's going to be very interesting to see in episode 12 where we leave Mon Mothma.
I know.
You know, that is one of the major things. What decision is she going to make? Is she going to spend another season? Because we're going to be lapping up another season of this. You know, is she going to stay still in her position, or is she going to make the move?
I thought they made her job a little bit easier with the daughter, because she was considering, you know, letting Dao's son marry her daughter, but she has kind of embraced the very traditional approach of her race, isn't she?
Yeah.
So that might actually make it easier for Mon Mothma to wed them, you know, and make that happen, you know.
She sort of, the daughter looked suddenly much more independent in that role, didn't she? Whereas before she was reliant on her parents more. Now she's got this other string to her bow. And I just thought that it felt a bit Jedi. It felt a bit sort of forcey, the way that they approached it, a bit culty. So it'd be again, I was really interested to find out more about that and see where that goes, because they may well be a force for good in the future series. You know, it might be. It's also interesting little subplots and lines that could project this out and add other storylines and plots. You know,
one of the best bits is when Luthen goes and meets with Sol Guerrera.
It's brilliant.
Another really good bit, you know.
Really good.
The acting has really sort of stepped up in
Forrest Whitaker. He's.
I know the two of them, and their
so
the way they go with each other. You know, it's really so well done, isn't it?
It's so sort of political. It's subtle. For a minute, I was like, "What the hell's going on? What's he saying?" And then I kind of clocked on and. You can see, I mean,
Sol he's now saying, "I'll join in with this attack and help," you know. But then Luthen's like, "No, we don't want to do. You don't want to do that," because they know. I know. Well, he
doesn't say no, don't do it. Does he?
No,
he tells in the situation.
Yes.
You know,
it's your decision.
It's your decision.
Your decision. But
Sol's like trying to clock on. What? Hang on, what are you saying? You know, he's like, are you sacrificing? But you see a bit of his people?
Paranoia, doesn't he? Because he's like, who within my? Is there someone in my people are telling you stuff? You know, and it's really well. It's so good, isn't it?
No one fixes a stare quite like Forrest Whitaker does, and when his eyes are going all over the place, he's giving that Shakespearean moment. Are there traitors amongst my followers? You know, are there? And he's doing that whole thing where he's pedestaling and kind of like. Who do you have working for you amongst my ranks? And you know, and then
that was great. That was really good. The two of them and how Luthen sort of dealt with it. You know, he dealt with it well, didn't he? And then they agreed they wouldn't do anything. That
he totally stayed in character. Luthen was just Luthen in that moment. You get to know he doesn't trust anybody. You know, he's total. And
he's awesomely cool, isn't he? And then one of the best bits, because it's a good action bit, was when he goes back to his ship.
Oh, it's brilliant.
And he's flying along, and he gets tractor beamed by this. And I think this was some sort of original design.
It was the original design for the Star Destroyers, you know.
Exactly.
And they threw it out because it was a bit clunky with all these kind of radars.
But I like it how they've given it a purpose that's like emits the tractor beams to grab people and hold them, you know. And I loved all that because I love his ship. I think Luthen's ship is like one of the coolest ships they've had in Star Wars. I mean,
it's got those wings that turn on either side. They look so cool.
Hidden sort of things within his ship as well. A hidden compartment for where he gets his costumes on, and then the guns that kind of come out and.
Well, the really cool thing about there's a couple of really cool things, but the first thing is Luthen is purposely getting them to increase the strength of the tractor beam.
That's right.
By pulling away like a fish in a rod. You know, like he's put and they've put it up to level 5, but he's charging up this frac material that he releases because the tractor beam is so strong. It pulls all this metal towards.
I just love that bit. I was like, it's just like
It makes perfect sense. It's like
really good.
This is such a great idea.
Yeah.
And Luthen's just so cool. He's just doing
He
it.
is just so cool, isn't he? He's like, and I'm loving his little computer thing as well. When he just says, "Oh, I need, this and this."
Yeah.
And,
There's a little eye that kind of turns and looks
seeing
around.
the charge and all the dials and all the little things in there.
Oh.
So Star Warsy and so great. Seeing the little, even the dial. I know it sounds stupid, but when you see the, reminded me of like the Death Star when you were seeing it
very
coming
much
in.
So
and
similar,
like
purposely done that.
Absolutely brilliant.
And then, I mean,
something
completely unbelievable happens.
They've
launched some TIE fighters, and there's a couple of different types of TIE fighter there as well, which I thought was so cool.
Well, this was the thing. It wasn't like in Obi-Wan. Do you remember when they sent like two tiny little ships down that didn't do anything? Yeah. This was like 5 or 6 ships, wasn't it? That they had different types. They were like, this was like watching a film. I was like, oh, this is so good.
Well, they were coming out the sounds. You see the TIE fighter pilots.
Brilliant.
And then he does this thing, which is just like unbelievable. His wings go up. And just seeing that alone was awesome. Yeah. And then there's these holes at the side. You think, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah.
Suddenly, 2 red lasers, which were in effect lightsabers, weren't they?
They
were lightsabers.
We got some lightsabers at last.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. And he's... Not only does he just fly, he spins. Yeah. So it's like this maneuver that Anakin or Darth Maul would have done with their lightsabers.
Brilliant.
And he catches both the ships. Yeah. And the way when they hit the ships, it looks so convincing about how the damage is done to the ship.
Yeah.
It wasn't
that
just
was awesome.
It was just awesome. He spins off. I had to rewind that bit and watch it again. I was just screaming.
I was like, whoa! Oh man!
I know. And really cool. Then he gets off, and the brilliant scene where it pans around from the general in the spaceship.
Yes.
And it pans
the look on his face and the way he's sort of like
he shakes his head and says something, "Oh no," or something like that.
That was really good. Yeah,
that was brilliant. That was such a great way to end the episode as well.
I know that was really good. The whole episode was brilliant. I like that as much as the last episode. The interplay with the characters, bit of Forrest Whitaker with Luthen going off against the 2 quality actors. The Mon Mothma bit was great. What an episode. I mean, this is it's just turned into a really great series, hasn't it? And
it has. It's brilliant.
Rivaling Mandalorian season 1.
I think it's better. It's better.
You think it's better?
I do.
That's
absolutely.
That's interesting.
I think Mandalorian got a bit stagnant, sort of in the middle. And although we had like 1 or 2 episodes where it's slower in this show, I think the
character development,
the acting, political intrigue, it's just been working on so many levels. I think what we've seen is what they've also shown to us a couple of new actors with Cyril and Dedra who are brilliant, you know. And I think that they've got a big future. And I was like,
there isn't. I don't think there's anyone in the cast that I would say has really let it down. There's been no real major. They've all been great actors, haven't they? And they've all been...
I mean, there's only one actor in it, I think, who isn't great. He's okay, but I would say that we see so little of him in this episode that it doesn't really matter.
But I think this is the thing. It's focused on some of the other characters, and that's what's made it amazing.
But I think and part of the reason is. The production of it, that with Cyril and Dedra, they're both theatre actors. And they're not big film actors. They've spent a lot of time working in the theatre. And I think that what that's shown is they've got they're really paying close attention to the details in this show. So you've got like the nuances are just really subtle but very powerful. And I think that has shown throughout. And I just really feel like I'm rooting for the rebels as well. I feel like it's really building up nicely. Emotions going in the right direction with this show. I'm starting to feel I'm really gutted. It's going to be one last episode. That's for me. It's like, oh no, I want it to be a few more episodes. This is going so well. It's been so good. Well, it's sort of renewed a bit of hope in what Disney can produce, isn't it? You know, whether they allow them to carry on in the same format, because they obviously have got a lot of, they're quite independent from the standard Disney format. But
you're so right. I think that's such a good point, because it's been done very differently, hasn't it, to the other series, and it's worked so well, and this is what they need to realize. Let's get back on to this way of producing, because it's been so good. So
well,
good.
The sets were massive, apparently.
Yes,
so they built that whole town. All the physicality of it has really paid off in a big way. This using these broad sweeps of landscapes as well. It is. You really feel
it's been epic, isn't it?
It has been epic, and you could sit down and arguably watch the last 5 episodes just constantly. You could watch a 5-hour film, and I think you'd still be riveted. Within that world, it's very, very cool.
Good. No, I totally agree. Awesome. I was right. Yay!
We were right.
Okay, well, thanks for joining us today. We're really enjoying watching this series. I hope you guys are too. Obviously, leave us any comments or likes, and we would love some more subscribers. So press those buttons. That'd be great. Otherwise, we'll see the last episode, and we'll review that next week. And we'll see you again soon.